Shalom, y'all. Praise Yahuwah for everything having to do with this Bible study. The words, the cooperation, the technological cooperation. Because I need that blessing. I'll do the prayer. Father Yahuwah, this is part 2. We're going to combine them into one part. I love you. Be my mouth. Let me be your lips. And tell the people what they need to know. Give the people what they need as you get what you need, and I learned more about you. And we all have a better relationship with you as our Creator. And we get to know you more, and we increase in truth and wisdom. And praise be to you, Yahuwah. Praise and glory be to you, Yahuwah. Thank you for the growth of this channel and all the people that you help me reach day in and day out. Bless Chris. Bless all the people from Star Point Church that I worked with today. Father Yahuwah, in Yeshua's name, amen. I met a guy at the cleaners. I got a wedding tomorrow. So you're gonna see me looking in a suit. And I met this guy, and we started talking about it. We both have weddings tomorrow. He's like, start early. I was like, okay. I don't drink though. And he goes, I don't either. I'm like, oh, you ever read the Bible? So we start talking about the Bible and stuff. And so if you're watching this, bless you. Praise Yahuwah. And yeah, this is real life. You know what I mean? Like, you never know who you're going to meet and where. And that's another thing that I'm trying to show you guys in doing all this, is that there's people everywhere that need the word. And you have to reach them, because you know the word. I'm teaching you the word. If you're not comfortable teaching them the word, bring them here. Let them ask questions. Let them challenge. Had a guy ask once, is there a second witness for the 1,000 years? It's like, well, we'll talk about that when we get to Revelation. But you can't have there's no second witness for the entirety of the word. Don't make him say it twice. John chapter 18. Having said these words, Yeshua went out with his taught ones beyond the Kidron torrent, where there was a garden, in which he and his taught ones entered. And Yehuda, who delivered him up, also knew the place, because Yeshua often met there with his taught ones. Yehuda, then, having received the company of soldiers and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Yeshua then, knowing all that would come upon him, went forward and said to them, Whom do you seek? They answered him, Yeshua of Nazareth. Yeshua said to them, I am. And Yehuda, who delivered him up, was also standing with them. When, therefore, he said to them, I am, they drew back and fell to the ground. Once more he asked them, Whom do you seek? And they said, Yeshua of Nazareth. Yeshua answered, I said to you that I am. If then you seek me, allow these to go. In order that the word might be filled, which he spoke, of those whom you have given me, I have lost none. Then Shimon Kepha, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant, and cut off his right ear, and the servant's name was Malek. Then Yeshua said to Kepha, Put your sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me? Then the company of soldiers and the commander and the officers of the Yehudim seized Yeshua and bound him. And they led him away to Hanan first, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was high priest that year. Now Caiaphas was the one who gave counsel to the Yehudim that it was better that one man should die for the people. And Shimon Kepha followed Yeshua with another taught one, and that taught one was known to the high priest, and went with Yeshua into the courtyard of the high priest. But Kepha was standing outside at the door. So the other taught one, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to her, who kept the door, and brought Kepha in. Then the servant girl who kept the door said to Kepha, "Are you also one of this man's taught ones?" He said, "I am not." And the servants and the officers who had made a fire of coals stood there, because it was cold, and they warmed themselves. And Kepha was standing with them and warming himself. Then the high priest asked Yeshua about his taught ones and his teaching. Yeshua answered him, "I spoke openly to the world. I always taught in the congregation and in the set-apart place, where the Yehudim always met, and I spoke no word in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard me what I said to them. See, they know what I said." And when he had said this, one of the officers who stood by slapped Yeshua in the face, saying, "Do you answer the high priest this way?" Yeshua answered him, "If I have spoken evilly, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why do you strike me?" Then Hanan sent him bound to the high priest Caiaphas, and Shimon Kepha was standing and warming himself. Then they said to him, "Are you also one of his taught ones?" He denied it and said, "I am not." One of the servants of the high priest, a relative of the one whose ear Kepha cut off, "Did I not see you in the garden with him?" Then Kepha again denied it, and immediately a cock crowed. Then they led Yeshua from Caiaphas to the palace, and it was early. And they themselves did not go into the palace, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Pesach. Pilate, therefore, came out to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" They answered and said to him, "If he were not an evildoer, we would not have delivered him up to you." Then Pilate said to them, "You take him and judge him according to your law." The Yehudim said to him, "It is not right for us to put anyone to death, in order that the word of Yeshua might be filled which he spoke, signifying by what death he was about to die." Then Pilate went back into the palace and called Yeshua and said to him, "Are you the sovereign of the Yehudim?" Yeshua answered him, "Do you say this from yourself, or did others talk to you about me?" Pilate answered, "Am I a Yehudi? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What did you do?" Yeshua answered, "My reign is not of this world. If my reign were of this world, my servants would fight, so that I should not be delivered to the Yehudim. But now my reign is not from here." Then Pilate said to him, "You are a sovereign then?" Yeshua answered, "You say it because I am a sovereign. For this I was born, and for this I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" And when he had said this, he went out again to the Yehudim and said to them, "I find no guilt in him. But you have a habit that I shall release someone to you at the Pesach. Do you wish then that I release to you the sovereign of the Yehudim?" Then they all shouted again, saying, "Not this one, but Barabbas." And Barabbas was a robber. I am so honored to be allowed to host a discussion on this chapter, on this subject, on this occurrence. So thank you, Yahweh, for allowing me to do this. Thank you. Yeshua, tell me what the people need to know. In Yeshua's name, amen. Okay. Having said these words, Yeshua went out with his taught ones beyond the Kidron torrent, where there was a garden in which he and his taught ones entered. Okay, so 17 went all through the Pesach. 13 to 17 was all at the Last Supper, the Pesach dinner, the Passover dinner. Pesach is Passover if you're new to all of these Hebrew words. And now they're in the Kidron torrent, where there was a garden, the Garden of Gethsemane. We find out in other Gospels. And Yehuda, who delivered him up, also knew the place, because Yeshua often met there with his taught ones. Okay, so Judas knows where to go. Judas, we found out in 13, is the one who's going to deliver him up. 13:26, Yeshua answered, "It is he to whom I shall give a piece of bread when I have dipped it." And having dipped the bread, he gave it to Yehuda from Carios, son of Shimon. Yehuda then, having received the company of soldiers and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Okay, so he was eating dinner with him earlier. And now, after this prayer, he went out with the taught ones. Yehuda slips off. Company of soldiers come in, and officers and chief priests and Pharisees, lanterns, torches, and weapons. They're about to go kill the beast. At least they think. They're coming up like the angry, like the mob of angry villagers. Yeshua then, knowing all that would come upon him, went forward and said to them, "Whom do you seek?" Went forward and said to them. He knows they're looking for him. And he goes forward. He goes at them and said, "Whom do you seek?" Five, they answered him, "Yeshua of Nazareth." Yeshua said to them, "I am." And Yehuda, who delivered him up, was also standing with them. Exodus 3:13. And Moshe said to Elohim, "See, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the Elohim of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them?" And Elohim said to Moshe, "I am that which I am." And he said, "Thus you say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you." The great I am, a wonderful worship song. Exodus 3:13 and 14. The great I am. This is Yeshua reiterating that because he is God. I and my Father are one. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Verse 6, when therefore he said to them, I am, they drew back and fell to the ground. In their face. I am. They drew back and fell to the ground. These guys just get laid out with this whole I am. Like Yeshua says I am, and the authority, the power, the possession of that statement is too much for layman to bear. Like, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess does not do justice to the God of gods saying I am to your face. Once more he asked them, whom do you seek? And they said, Yeshua of Nazareth. Yeshua answered, I said to you that I am. If then you seek me, allow these to go. So he's taking more possession. He's like, what's up? Who are you looking for? And he says, Yeshua answered, I said to you that I am. I answered your question. You're looking for me. Here I am. What's up? Why are you guys all on the ground? What happened? Is there a strong wind or something? Are you men shaken by the wind? Is that what this is? Like a reed? You're shaken by the wind? If then you seek me, allow these to go. So not only does he says, you're looking for me, your beef is with me. Let me handle this. Let my guys go. In order that the word might be filled, which he spoke, of those whom you have given me, I have lost none. That was a couple chapters back. "17 starts at 8, goes to 12. Because the words which you gave to me, I have given to them, and they have received them, and have truly known that I came forth from you, and they believe that you sent me. I pray for them. I do not pray for the world, but for those whom you have given me, for they are yours, and all mine are yours, and yours are mine, and I have been esteemed in them. And I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to you. Set apart, Father, guard them in your name, which you have given me, so that they might be as one as we are. When I was with them in the world, I was guarding them in your name, which you have given me. And I watched over them, and not one of them perished except the son of destruction, that the scripture might be filled. And now I come to you, and I speak these words in the world, so that they have my joy completed in them. I have given them your word, and the world hated them, because they are not of the world, as I am not of the world." Verse 12. I was with them in the world. When I was with them in the world, I was guarding them in your name, which you have given me. And I watched over them, and not one of them perished except the son of destruction, that the scripture might be filled. So, I have lost none. All the ones that are here, all the ones that rode, they're all still here. Then Shimon Kepha, having a sword, drew it, and struck the high priest's servant, and cut off his right ear. And the servant's name was Melech. Peter. Then Yeshua said to Kepha, "Put your sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me?" Put your sword into the sheath. So, lanterns, torches, and weapons. This is an angry mob. Peter's the one with the sword. We'll go deeper into this in Matthew. Peter's the one with the sword. Draws, cuts off his right ear. I'd heard a sermon on this that like Peter was likely right-handed, and so he crossed through the sword and went over. The guy's right ear would be here, and so he drew like that. So he was very experienced with the sword, was the point of that sermon. Which, how many sermons do you hear on the sword use of Peter? But shout out Pastor Joe, because he's a real one. And also, this whole Christians being pacifists, nah, don't play. I mentioned Andrew Tate a couple days ago, and he just put something up about how you're all Christian. You're all Christian pussies, and that's why these things are happening in your country. And, you know, there's a lot of truth in that. The church has taught that you love God and you love your neighbor, and they haven't taught you how to love God or love your neighbor. And we went over it a little bit as Yeshua talked about love, the reproof in Leviticus 19, I and them and you and me, so that they might be perfected into one, so that the world knows that you have sent me and have loved them as you have loved me. And how do we show love? We love our neighbor, Leviticus 19:17. Do not hate your brother in your heart, reprove your neighbor for certain, and bear no sin because of him. Do not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the children of your people, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh. So, that is how we love our neighbor. Reprove your neighbor. And then we also Proverb 1. The Proverbs of Shlomo, son of David, sovereign of Israel, for knowing wisdom and discipline, for understanding the words of understanding, for receiving the discipline of wisdom, righteousness, right ruling, and straightness, for giving insight to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. The wise hears and increases learning, and the understanding one gets wise counsel. For understanding a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and discipline. My son, heed the discipline of your father, and do not forsake the Torah of your mother. For they are a fair wreath on your head, and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not give in. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and entirely like those going down to the pit. Let us find all precious goods. Let us fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they hurry to shed blood. So, all throughout the Proverb 2, for Yahweh, 2:6, for Yahuwah gives wisdom. Out of his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. And he hides sound wisdom for the straight, a shield to those walking blamelessly, to walk over the paths of right ruling, and the way of his lovingly committed ones he guards. Then you would understand righteousness, and right ruling and straightness every good path. For wisdom would enter your heart, and knowledge be pleasant to your being. Discretion would guard you, understanding would watch over you, to deliver you from the evil way, from the man who speaks perversities, those who leave the paths of straightness, to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil. They delight in the perversities of evil, whose paths are crooked, and they are perverted in their ways, to deliver you from the strange woman, from the foreigner who flatters with her words, who forsakes the companion of her youth, and has forgotten the covenant of her Elohim. There's one. Children, listen to the discipline of a father, and give attention to know understanding. For I gave you good instruction. Do not forsake my Torah. For I was my father's son, tender and the only one in the eyes of my mother. Then he taught me, and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words. Guard my commands, and live. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget, and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not leave her, and let her guard you. Love her, and let her watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is get wisdom. Love her, and let her watch over you. So are you guys picking up the trend here? Is that the wisdom and discipline being given to you? Reproof. Praise Yahuwah. Proverb 3. This is the actual exact verse that I was looking for. And we're going to just take it from the top. Proverb 3. My son, do not forget my Torah, and let your heart watch over my commands. For length of days and long life, and peace they add to you. Let not loving commitment and truth forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Thus finding favor and good insight in the eyes of Elohim and man, trust in Yahuwah with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Know him in all your ways, and he makes all your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahuwah, and turn away from evil. It is healing to your navel and moistening to your bones. Esteem Yahuwah with your goods, and with the first fruits of all your increase. Then your storehouses shall be filled with plenty, and your vats overflow with new wine. My son, do not despise the discipline of Yahuwah, and do not loathe his reproof. For whom Yahuwah loves, he reproves, as a father the son whom he delights in. Blessed is the man who has found wisdom, and the man who gets understanding. For the gain from it is better than gain from silver, and its increase than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all your delights are not comparable to her. Length of days is in her right hand, riches and esteem in her left hand. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those taking hold of her, and blessed are all who retain her. Yahuwah founded the earth by wisdom. He established the heavens by understanding. By his knowledge the depths were broken up, and the clouds dropped down dew. My son, let them not depart from your eyes. Watch over sound wisdom and discretion. Then they become life to your being, and an adorning to your neck. Then you would walk safely in your way, and your foot would not stumble. When you lie down, you need not be afraid. And you shall lie down, and your sleep shall be sweet. Do not be afraid of sudden dread, nor of the ruin of the wrong when it comes. For Yahuwah is at your side, and he shall guard your foot from being caught. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it, when it is in the power of your hand to do so. Okay, so verse 12. For whom Yahuwah loves, he reproves, as Father, the Son, whom he delights in. Okay? So, reproof. All that from love God, love your neighbor. How is love shown? Reproof. We have the instructions in Leviticus 19:17 for loving our neighbor, reprove your neighbor, and the designation from Proverbs 3:12 that Yahweh will reprove us if he loves us. And so that is how we love our neighbor. Love your neighbor is not accepting them as they are, because if they are not in accordance with the word, then they are not the best them that they can be. And so it is our job as brothers and neighbors and sons of the Most High and daughters of the Most High and lovers of our friends and people and partners and cohorts and the guy at the grocery store to your mother, everybody. It is our job to reprove them. That is how we love them. And so if we don't instruct them to be a better them and show them why what they're doing is wrong and ridiculous, then we're doing them an injustice. And we are bearing our sin for our neighbor, because of our neighbor. And so going back, the whole point of that was to say that being a pacifist isn't, and I was wearing a polo today, and it's not the first time I've heard this, but there are people who say, polo wearing beta male. Bear's infamous for that. I've always hated it, and it's a soft spot, because that's like saying everybody who wears Carhartt is racist, and it's not true. You can't judge a book by its cover. And I know that he knows, he's way beyond that, but there is a perception of how people dress, and that is part of the magic of Yahweh. And I hate using the word magic, but that is one of the things that Yahweh loves to do. Yeshua picks the weakest people. He looks at the kid when he feeds the 5,000. David is the runt of the litter. King David, one of the greatest men ever, is the runt of the litter. And John 6:9. Here is a boy who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fishes, but what are these for so many? Here is a boy. Not one, not a man, not just a boy. This boy walking home with his 5 barley loaves and 2 fishes, about to feed his mom and baby brother. You know what I mean? And Jesus takes this and he says, "Come, boy, eat with us. Let me feed 5,000 with this." Blessed be Yeshua. He takes the weakest, most unassuming man because he can. Because that is who Yahweh is. How many times have we seen him take the smallest army? Abraham, 300 men. Gideon, 450 men. If that. I think that might have been 300 too. But the point being that even fasting, Yahweh wants you at your weakest so that you know that he is Elohim. Give him a penny and he will make you a millionaire. This is what so many people don't get, is the strength of Yahweh is most glorified in our weakness. Again, bringing this back to active assertion. David was a man of war. Yeshua comes back with a flaming sword. So don't tell me that the swords have been done away with after this. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Yeah, okay, literally living by the sword, making a living by the sword, or put your sword into the sheath. Hang on to it. You're good, bro. We don't need that right now. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me? So Peter pulls out the sword, cuts a guy's ear off, and Yeshua says, put that back. I'm good. I got this. This is what the Father has for me. I'm going to do this. There's nothing you can do about it. I appreciate it, but you're good. Verse 12. Then the company of soldiers and the commander and the officers of the Yehudim seized Yeshua and bound him. All of them. I think it's like 600 men. I think we see in Luke or Mark or something. 600 men. Because with the mere words, I am, they all fell to the ground. Seized Yeshua and bound him. And the Yehudim seized Yeshua and bound him. And they led him away to Hanan first, for he was the father-in-law. All right, this is one thought. So then the company of soldiers and the commander and the officers of the Yehudim seized Yeshua and bound him, and they led him away to Hanan first, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year. We remember Caiaphas. He gave us the 1149, and one of them, Caiaphas, being high priest that year, said to them, you know not, neither do you consider that it is better for us that one man die for the people than that the entire nation should perish. But he said this not from himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yeshua was about to die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but to gather together into the children of Elohim who were scattered abroad. Literally could not be said better. This is overlooked. He knew, Caiaphas the high priest knows that Yeshua is back to gather together. This is what it is. This is what it said. To gather together into one children of Elohim, the children of Elohim who were scattered abroad. Ezekiel 37. The children are scattered to the nations. Yeshua comes first for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Come back to me. Come back to me. Come back to me. They're at the nations. They're practically Gentiles. What one might call a Gentile is one from the nation coming into the Yehudim to be one Israel. Who'd have thunk? Now Caiaphas was the one who gave counsel to the Yehudim that it was better that one man should die for the people. Yes, one man needs to die for the people. And Shimon Kepha followed Yeshua with another taught one, and that taught one was known to the high priest and went with Yeshua into the courtyard of the high priest. But Kepha was standing outside at the door. I do not know who that other taught one is, but we'll see it in another gospel, I'm sure, and find out. But Kepha was standing outside at the door. So the other taught one, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to her, who kept the door, and brought Kepha in. It might be John, because he usually refers to himself as the taught one in like a perspective manner. But then the servant girl who kept the door said to Kepha, are you also one of this man's taught ones? He said, I am not. And I just want to point out the difference here between I am and I am not. Peter lies, and we know that Peter denies him 3 times before the cock crows. But Yeshua, they come to get him, and he goes, I am. I mean, he probably could have whispered it, and it would have just finally got a good punch in there. And the servants and the officers who had made a fire of coals stood there, because it was cold, and they warmed themselves. And Kepha was standing with them and warming himself. John does not put inadequate details into his writing. And every verse of John is very important. So, just like we get 4 chapters of Yeshua's speech, like he records the whole thing. So, but Kepha was standing outside at the door, so the other tall one, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to her who kept the door and brought Kepha in. So, and that might be why this is John, and he's not saying so basically Yeshua is taken into the courtyard of the high priest. One of the tall ones knows the high priest, and they look at each other, and it's like, yo, you're good, if this is your guy, you can come with him, and if you got something to say about him, bear your witness. Kepha standing outside of the door, and Peter's not that guy, so it's yo, hold him back, let him through. Here's our guy, And so then John goes back and says, nah, he's with me. And I just love the way this is written. Bless John. Then the servant girl who kept the door said to Kepha, are you one of this man's taught ones? He said, I am not. Difference in men. But he also, look what's gone on with Peter in the last 6-7 verses is that he drew his sword. He's like, all right, let's party. And then Yeshua's like, nah, it's not like that. And then he watches Yeshua get taken into the courtyard. He's trying to go with them. He gets held back at the door. And then John, the taught one that Yeshua loved, prospectively the most sensitive one, has to come back and get Peter and let him through. And so I could see him just kind of at this point being nah, whatever. And the servants and officers who had made a fire of coals stood there because it was cold, and they warmed themselves, and Kepha was standing with them and warming himself. I'm just going to say this line again and let you get it. And Kepha was standing with them and warming himself. Verse 19. Then the high priest asked Yeshua about his taught ones and his teaching. Next scene. Yeshua answered him, I spoke openly to the world. I always taught in the congregation and in the set-apart place, where the Yehudim always meet, and I spoke no word in secret. You have a question about my teaching? Why didn't you ask me then? What is your question? I spoke openly to the world. I always taught in the congregation and in the set-apart place, where the Yehudim always meet, and I spoke no word in secret. All my teachings are out there. You know it, you've heard it. I've shown you. I've lived it. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard me what I said to them. See, they know what I said. They know what I said. There's no mistaking what I said. Read your word. And when he had said this, one of the officers who stood by slapped Yeshua in the face, saying, do you answer the high priest this way? They just got disrespectful. He's trying to do his job, but man, right to the officer. It's on sight. Yeshua answered him, if I have spoken evilly, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why do you strike me? We can do this diplomatically, but you can't tell me what is evil that I've done. And so if it is well, why are you hitting me? Then Hanan sent him bound to the high priest Caiaphas. Hanan was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year. Who is the father-in-law that I'm remembering is Yithro in Exodus with Moses. And he basically comes through after they get let out, and he's like, you can't keep talking to all the people. Exodus 18. And Yithro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, heard of all that Elohim had done for Moshe and for Yisrael, his people, that Yahuwah had brought Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. And Yithro, Moshe's father-in-law, took Zipporah, the wife of Moshe, after he had sent her back, and her 2 sons, of whom the names, one was Gershom, for he said, I have been a sojourner in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eleazar, for he said, the Elohim of my father was my help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Yithro, Moshe's father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moshe in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of Elohim. And he said to Moshe, I, Yithro, your father-in-law Yithro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons with her. And Moshe went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. And they asked each other about their welfare, and they went into the tent. Moshe told his father-in-law all that Yahuwah had done to Pharaoh and to the Mitzrites for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them on the way, and how Yahuwah had delivered them. And Yithro rejoiced for all the good which Yahuwah had done for Yisrael, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Mitzrites. And Yithro said, Blessed be Yahuwah, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Mitzrites, and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Mitzrites. Now I know that Yahuwah is greater than all the mighty ones, indeed in the matter in which they acted proudly above them. Then Yithro, the father-in-law of Moshe, brought an ascending offering and other slaughterings unto Elohim, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with the father-in-law of Moshe before Elohim. And it came to be, on the next day, that Moshe sat to rightly rule the people, and the people stood before Moshe from morning until evening. And when the father-in-law of Moshe saw all that he had did for the people, he said, What is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit by yourself, and all the people stand before you from morning until evening? And Moshe said to his father-in-law, Because the people come to me to seek Elohim. When they have a matter, they come to me, and I rightly rule between one and another, and make known the laws of Elohim and his Torah. And the father-in-law of Moshe said to him, What you are doing is not good. Both you and these people with you shall certainly wear yourselves out, for the matter is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it by yourself. Now listen to my voice. Let me counsel you, and Elohim be with you. Stand before Elohim for the people, and you shall bring the matters to Elohim. And you shall enlighten them concerning the laws and the Torah, and show them the way in which they should walk, and the work which they do. But you yourself seek out from all the people able men who fear Elohim, men of truth, hating unfair gain, and place these over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. And they shall rightly rule the people at all times. And it shall be that they bring every great matter to you. But they themselves rightly rule every small matter. So make it lighter for yourself, for they shall bear with you. If you do this word, and Elohim shall command you, then you shall be able to stand, and all this people also go to their place in peace. And Moshe listened to the voice of his father-in-law, and did all that he said. And Moshe chose able men out of all Yisrael, and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. And they rightly ruled the people at all times. The hard matters they brought to Moshe, but they rightly ruled every small matter themselves. And Moshe sent off his father-in-law, and he went away to his own land. And so that is a beautiful relationship between father-in-law and son-in-law. And I just wanted to point that out as we read about Hanan. Sent him bound to the high priest Caiaphas, his son-in-law. Okay. Kick back for this. I didn't even bring drinks over here. It's alright. It's alright. Oh, boy. Ugh. Pause this. Take a siesta. I gotta have an intermission. And not only it's good that this is a whole nother hour. These are getting deep. Okay. Verse 25. And Shimon Kepha was standing and warming himself. Then they said to him, "Are you also one of his taught ones?" He denied it and said, "I am not." This time he's got an exclamation point. So in verse 17 it was a period. In verse 25 it is an exclamation point. So now he's getting testy. He's looking. He's seeing Yeshua being moved, being bound. He's starting to he's like about to grab his sword again, you know what I mean? And they don't take away the sword. Like, that's not, they don't like frisk him when he comes into the courtyard. It's like, he's still got that shit, you know? Pardon my language. It's a tough one. I try not to, but I do. 26. One of the servants of the high priest, a relative of the one whose ear Kepha cut off, said, "Did I not see you in the garden with him?" So, this guy is a relative of the guy whose ear Peter cut off, going back to the sword. "Did I not see you in the garden with him?" He probably was standing right there. And Peter, then Kepha again denied it, and immediately a cock crowed. So the prophecy is not necessarily stated in here. We get it in other Gospels. But there is the occurrence. And immediately a cock crowed. I wonder if there's any correlation between the dawn of a new day. Then they led Yeshua from Caiaphas to the palace, and it was early. And they themselves did not go into the palace, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Pesach. So, this is the night before the Pesach. And before the festival of the Pesach, Yeshua, knowing that his hour had come, that he should move out of the world unto the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And supper taking place, the devil having already put it into the heart of Yehuda from Carios, son of Shimon, to deliver him up, Yeshua, knowing that the Father had given all into his hand, and that he had come from Elohim and was going to Elohim, rose from supper and laid aside his garments, and having taken a towel, he girded himself. It's chapter 13, 1 through 4. So they do not go into the palace, lest they should be defiled, but that they eat the Pesach. So these servants led Yeshua from Caiaphas to the palace, and it was early. And did not go in. They themselves did not go into the palace, lest they should be defiled, that they might eat the Pesach. This isn't even important enough to them to violate the Pesach. They're not violating the Pesach, but they're killing the Messiah. Pilate, therefore, came out to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" Pilate's basically the executioner for Rome, because the Jews can't, kill people. They have their own, they use their laws, so to speak, religiously, but the physical execution and imprisonment is a facet of the Roman government. I mean, they've got their own officers and police. Pilate therefore came out to ask them, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" Here's their witness. Here's their chance to witness. "If I have spoken evilly, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why do you strike me?" 29. 30. They answered and said to him, "If he were not an evildoer, we would not have delivered him up to you." Look, that's all you need. We brought him to you. He's guilty. You know, I had a tech teacher, CNC teacher, 11th grade, tell me that he got out of jury duty because he told the people that if you've brought this case against him, you've put all these resources into him. And this is pretty true, that by the time the case has been brought to trial, you've got the evidence, you've got this, you've got that, you've got all these steps and stages in between, interrogation, bail, possible plea deal. You know, by the time all this goes to trial, you've gathered all your evidence. He said, I can't help but think that this person's guilty because of the processes of the court prior to his appearance before me. And basically, the Jews used that. If he were not an evildoer, we would not have delivered him up to you. Then Pilate said to them, "You take him and judge him according to your law." It's like, this is your problem. This is what you don't even have a crime. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't steal anything. He didn't rape anybody. None of it. He's an evildoer, they say. In order that the word Then the Yehudim said to him, "It is not right for us to put anyone to death." They're not even... It would be right to get the evil out of the camp if they were evil, but they don't have the evil. In order that the word of Yeshua might be filled, which he spoke, signifying by what death he was about to die. Yeah. I'm sure we could find a verse about that, but we know that he's about to die. Where I go, you are not able to go. I don't specifically think he says that I'm about to die. Yeah. So, not super important. We all get the whole, where I go, you're not able to follow. I'm going to my father now. He has many staying places and this and that. My father's house. Okay. 33. Then Pilate went back into the palace and called Yeshua and said to him, "Are you the sovereign of the Yehudim?" Yeshua answered him, "Do you say this from yourself, or did others talk to you about me? Are you the king of the Jews?" That's their accusation, is that he's claiming to be king of the Jews. Did you say this from yourself, or did others talk to you about me? He's even wondering if Pilate is able to see this. Like you can see the aura of a man who has presence, but I can only imagine what Yeshua's aura looked like, and just the glow that he had, and the power and the authority, especially, the fact that his words could knock people down. Pilate answered, "Am I a Yehudi? Your own nation and chief priests have delivered you to me. What did you do?" Pilate's confused, and he's over this whole thing. It's like, I'm not here to argue with you. If you're not guilty, tell me you're not guilty. If they're trying to kill you, I don't want to kill you. I don't think that there's any reason that I should kill you, and so why are you playing games? Yeshua answered, "My reign is not of this world. If my reign were of this world, my servants would fight, so that I should not be delivered to the Yehudim. But now my reign is not from here." Then Pilate said to him, "You are a sovereign then?" Yeshua answered, "You say it because I am a sovereign. For this I was born, and for this I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." I think he liked Pilate. He liked Pilate. Pilate was on his level. Pilate did not want to kill Yeshua. And you see this more in other Gospels, but this is a conversation where this is almost brotherly. And Pilate says directly to him, "What did you do?" And Yeshua, being that he should bear witness to the truth, he cannot help but explain himself to Pilate. And I can just see him looking into Pilate's eyes, explaining the truth to him, Pilate knowing the truth resonating with Pilate, him accepting the truth. "My reign is not of this world. If my reign were of this world, my servants would fight, so that I should not be delivered to the Yehudim. But now my reign is not from here." So he's like, I'm not a king here, because if I was a king only on earth, my servants would fight here. I have so much more in heaven than you can even comprehend. Then Pilate said to him, "You are a sovereign then?" Yeshua answered, "You say it because I am a sovereign." So Pilate assesses from the verbiage that Yeshua spoke, the words and the way that he spoke, that he is a sovereign. And Yeshua agrees. He says, "You say it because I am a sovereign." He admits that he is the king. "For this I was born, and for this I have come into the world." Interestingly, the capital, in verse 33, in the Scriptures version, there's a capital S in sovereign of the Yehudim, meaning that the king of the Jews is a proper noun ordained by Yahuwah. But a sovereign, just any sovereign, is not necessarily ordained by Yahuwah, because 37 does not have an S as the sovereign. Even though Yeshua is saying, "I am a sovereign," he is not saying he is the sovereign of the Yehudim in this context. But he is a sovereign. He is a king. He is the King of Kings, but he is not necessarily the King of the Jews, as Pilate proclaims in his questioning. "For this I was born, and for this I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." And that is why Pilate gets it. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. You listening to this right now, be of the truth. 38, Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" And when he had said this, he went out again to the Yehudim and said to them, "I find no guilt in him." He looks at him. What is truth? How are you sitting here before me? I can see what is on your face. I can see the truth in you. I can see the entirety of your existence right now. And there is no lie among it. And you are the truth. You are the truest king that I have ever seen. The greatest light ever, says Pilate. He has no answer but to question what truth is. He's questioning reality at this point. This is how confused Pilate is by the fact that the Jews are serving up Yeshua. He can see that he's the light and he is the truth so heavily, so deeply that he doesn't even understand the reality of truth anymore. I find no guilt in him. He got nothing. He's got nothing. All of this time, an hour with Yeshua, and he's got nothing. An hour with Yeshua. Pilate gets his hour with Yeshua. But you have a habit that I shall release someone to you at the Pesach. Do you wish then that I release to you the sovereign of the Yehudim? Now Pilate determines this is the sovereign of the Yehudim. Then they all shouted again, saying, "Not this one, but Barabbas." And Barabbas was a robber, one who broke Torah blatantly and was a thief. Stole. They're stealing Yeshua. They're stealing the truth. They're stealing the life. The light. They're stealing the truth. They're stealing the light. They're robbing the world of the greatness that is Yeshua. Praise Yahweh in Yeshua's name.